Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of Metcalf's Movie Journal. This is the show where I do quick reviews for the movies that I watch, give them a score out of 10, and then add them to my list. So let's see what movie I'm reviewing today. On May 4th I watched Ronin, which came out in 1998. And for some reason, this film decides to use the story of the Ronin, that is, samurai without leaders, to serve as a metaphorical backdrop in which to set its rather plain story about a group of highly trained mercenaries hired to steal a suitcase. The story of the Ronin is interesting enough all on its own, and I can see why the movie 47 Ronin was still worth being made, since this movie never did that super interesting backstory justice. It's an oddly out of place setup, since the story here is clearly set in Western Europe, with Russians and Irish both fighting to steal the same case, so the Japanese influence only loosely makes sense thematically, but I think it does more to confuse the overall final product than it does to add to it. The convoluted and messy way the story is told is frustrating, but easily the most annoying part of this movie to me was that MacGuffin of a suitcase, the contents of which it became all too clear we were never going to see. The best thing to compare it to would be the suitcase from Pulp Fiction, with the contents being equally mysterious. The big difference between them, though, is that Pulp Fiction has a lot more going on around it, with some characters not even knowing about the case, but they still have interesting arcs. Whereas here, every line of dialogue is built around the case, and the men hired to steal it are supposed to be pros, willing to risk their lives, and indeed some will die, all to capture a case whose contents remain a mystery. The question of what's in the case gets asked straight out and directly so many times that it turns into a borderline running gag bit, like wanting to see Wilson's face in Home Improvement. But it never felt like there was room for humor here, since the rest of the movie's tone is hyper-serious. Robert De Niro stars here, right near the end of his cool phase in my opinion, with Meet the Parents only 2 years away. But I would say the real acting standout was Sean Bean as Spence. Even knowing that his chances of making it out alive were slim, especially in an action flick like this, it was even more obvious that he never stood a chance, since his character was such a dummy. It's probably the most unexplained plot hole, and maybe I just missed something, but I still don't know how or why this guy with no skill ended up on this elite team of highly paid mercenaries. It's even more frustrating to miss stuff like that, since the story is really super simple at its core. But it's obscured behind thick accents, weirdly out of place characters, and the script that so badly wants us to view these Western characters through an Eastern lens. It all leads to a movie that feels like it wants to be so much more than it is. And I've already seen so many other better heist movies, and crime in the broadest sense might be the most common theme in my highly rated movies. But this one, while never being outright offensively bad, was always just too boring and dry for my tastes. The ending didn't bother me as much as it might some people, but it still feels like a little bit of a cop-out. So I ended up giving it a 4 out of 10, and it landed at number 1051 on my list, putting it right here, in between Jerry Maguire and Ponyo. And as always, thanks for watching. Hey everyone, thanks for watching another edition of Metcalf's Movie Journal. Be sure to click like and subscribe for new videos every week, and if you have a movie that you really want me to watch, be sure to drop me a comment.